Hello and welcome to another book haul video. I have been buying a whole lot more books than usual since I started this channel. When I started out, I thought I wasn't going to buy very much, but you can't see right now, but there's a big pile of books over here that we're gonna get to, and I'm really excited to tell you about them. But first, a very exciting announcement for the channel and for myself. I am now an affiliate with bookshop.org. If you are not familiar with bookshop.org, it is a great alternative to Amazon. It is an online bookseller that connects directly with local booksellers. It also gives a higher percentage of book sales to affiliates like me than Amazon does. It is a great way to support buying used books and to continue to obviously be involved in the hobby that we all have, and yet not contribute to the massive capitalist monster that is Amazon. Also, of course, if you don't know what affiliate links are, a little bit of your purchase of that book comes back to me to help me run the channel and continue to improve things here. So I already have a bookshop set up there that you can find in the description below. I've also set up specifically a list of the books that I'm showing you here in this haul. So if any of these particularly are of interest to you and you want them, buy them through that link, and they're competitive prices with Amazon, sometimes better, and you'll be helping me out a lot as well. So please check that out. I've also set up some other lists like of previous videos I've done, like the 25 fantasy books I want to read, and then of course I have a whole Malazan list as well. So please check that out. I'm very excited about starting that. But without further ado, let's get to some hauled books. This is kind of October and November-y. So the first one I know a lot of people are going to be excited about, and that is Best Served Cold by Joe Abercrombie. Now, I've talked before about how the First Law trilogy, which is much beloved, just didn't quite do it for me. I thought it was fine. I enjoyed some parts of it, but the sort of meandering or even lack of plot that were in those books, particularly the first two, I found off-putting. And a lot of the characters that people really, really love, while I enjoyed, I didn't love in the same way. So all that to say is I think Abercrombie is an incredibly talented writer. I think that's indisputable, but just didn't hit me as far as favorites. What I have heard, though, is that he continues to improve throughout his career and that I should keep going. And so Best Served Cold is the first sort of standalone novel that he did after First Law. I think it takes place in the same universe. I don't know much more beyond that. I don't think the same characters as in the first trilogy, except that like there's some cameos and that kind of thing. So I'm really excited to get to this, especially because it is a single volume novel. I need to read some of those, and like I said, I really want to give Abercrombie another chance. So Best Served Cold. I also love this edition generally. You guys know how I feel about paperbacks. Love them. This is very like well shaped. It's got a nice weight to it, and it's pretty light for the 900 page count that it is. So excited for that. Next book we have on here is, you'll find this on my 25 fantasy books I want to read video, and that is book 3 of the Swans trilogy by Sean Russell. I was referred to this by Chris Bookish Cauldron, who's a great follow. This is the third book in that trilogy. The bookstore I went to actually had all 3 of these, but the other 2 you'll see in a little bit I bought on Kindle earlier in the month. But I did want one physical copy because I just think these are beautiful books. Like the cover, the artwork, and I don't know if you can hear that, but it's got that nice sort of like glossy feel to it. So I'm very excited about this. Also, the length I'm pretty jazzed about. All 3 of these books I think are under 500 pages. So pretty rare to get a fantasy trilogy that is done in under 500 pages per installment. So excited about that. One of my favorite authors with another standalone that I talked about in my top 25 fantasy books I want to read is Tad Williams's The War of the Flowers. This is, as far as I understand, a portal fantasy where someone from our world gets drawn into a fantasy world I really like Ted Williams' writing style. I think as far as prose goes and voice, he is some of the best out there. I loved the way he wrote Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn, that trilogy, even though I thought the story itself kind of dragged a little bit. It was still elevated by how well it was written. So I'm excited to get a relative to Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn, smaller word count, and also a standalone novel with those same expert level prose that Ted Williams has. So very excited about this. Also, again, this is just, it's beautiful. I love the simple beauty of mass market paperbacks. They're just beautiful and so easy to carry. Here we go. We are going to get into the Robin Hobb section of today's video. First off, the third book in the in the Live Ship Traders trilogy, Ship of Destiny by Robin Hobb. If you've seen my reviews on those, you know I love this trilogy. I think it's an all-time classic, truly, truly incredible, and so more than happy to buy the third book in it, and I'm going to be looking to buy the first book, which is the only one I don't have currently. I highly recommend this. I bought this, by the way, again, off of bookshop.org, and it was great. So be sure, again, to check out that affiliate tag. But I love Robin Hobb. Do you know how much I love Robin Hobb? Well, I bought another book by Robin Hobb. This is one of the Robin Hobb books, maybe the only one, I'm not 100% sure about that, that is not in her realm of the Elderlings series. This is a totally standalone by its own series called Soldier Son Trilogy. This is another one that Chris from Chris Bookish Cauldron really turned me on to because he loves this. And again, the used bookstore I had again this great edition in really, really good state. And so, of course, I picked it up. Also, so the first one's name is Shaman's Crossing. I think the basic idea here is there is this noble who has to go to a school and for some reason starts to feel a disloyalty to his family and his nation that he was at before. I really don't know more than that. Again, I try to not hear a lot more of this. This is mainly on the strength of how much I love Robin Hobb's writings. By the way, did I mention I love Robin Hobb's writings? Because I also bought the second book in this trilogy, which is something that I don't usually do before I try the first book, but I just trust Robin Hobb implicitly. So the second one is called Forest Mage. Again, this is the Soldier Son Trilogy. There's that book there. And, did I mention that I really, really trust Robin Hobb? Because I also got the third one in the Soldier Son Trilogy. I don't honestly have plans to read this anytime soon, but I just love Robin Hobb and I know I am going to read it, and these are all beautiful books. Love Robin Hobb. So got the whole trilogy at the same bookstore. And I definitely love Robin Hobb because I also got two more Robin Hobb books. These is to fill out my Farseer trilogy collection. I had the first one, but I did not have the second two. Actually, here, might as well put them together, right? So there we go. They're not exactly perfectly, well, I guess they are perfectly matching. These are from the same trilogy, and I love these a lot more than the more recent ones, which I think look a little dumb. Sorry, I don't mean to insult the artist. I just think it's mismatched for the tone. It makes it look a little lighter than it is, and I think that throws some people off. This shows sort of the mature aspect of it. I just think these are all gorgeous, and Robin Hobb is a genius. I love this. But no, wait. There's more Robin Hobb. One more. Fool's Fate by Robin Hobb. This is book 3 in the Tawny Man trilogy, so I'm not going to get here for a while, but they had it at the used bookstore, and I wanted it, and it was at a great price, and even though this is in a little worse shape, it's still just an absolutely beautiful cover. I mean, look at that. I'm so excited to get there. I don't think I have to tell you guys how much I love Robin Hobb. I think it's quite clear. And I know what you're asking yourself. Did you buy every Robin Hobb book that used bookstore had when you visited? The answer is, of course, yes. Another great find at that same used bookstore. I should just say the name of it. Midway Books in St. Paul is a fantastic location. If you're anywhere near the Twin Cities, Minnesota, or in the upper Midwest at all, go check it out. It's a great bookstore. I don't mind plugging them by name. They had 2 books in the Prince of Nothing trilogy by R. Scott Bakkar, which I've heard from several people I absolutely need to read. Is a great work of philosophy as well as fantasy, and if you've seen my videos, you know that that is right up my alley. So the second book is The Warrior Prophet, and the third one is The Thousand-Fold Thought. And the first book, I believe, is called The Darkness That Comes Before. I obviously don't have that yet, so I'll have to either find that pretty soon or just buy that on its own. But I absolutely am looking forward to these books. So this was a fantastic find. Now we move on to the ebook portion of the book haul, because there were a lot of great ebook deals in October and November that I purchased. All right, so first up, we have the much praised in BookTube and elsewhere, Jade City by Fonda Lee, which is the first book in the Green Bone saga. Jade War is the second one. This is another one that was on my fantasy books I want to read in the future. I've heard nothing but huge praise from this from friends and fellow booktubers, so very excited to pick this up. I think the basic idea is it's sort of like a mafia and fantasy mixture where Jade allows people to be powerful, and so these families control the flow of Jade and who can use it, and that creates this tension. So this is much different than things that I would normally read, but I am into that. I mean, I like trying new and different things. So excited to read that book. Next book that we have on here is The Sword of Kaigen by M.L. Wong. This is the Shelf Space Discord buddy read in November. So if you don't know about Shelf Space, it is a fantastic Discord server you should be a part of. It's a great, positive community, but each month they have an official and unofficial pick. I always read the official pick, and sometimes we'll sort of follow along the unofficial one, but they have a live show at the end of each month to discuss the book that I find is very helpful. And so this month is Sword of Kaigen. Cool thing about Sword of Kaigen is that it is an independent release. It's not put out by any of the major publishers, although I'm not sure now, maybe because of its success it got bought out. But it has had hugely successful followings across the internet, even though it is a self-published work. And so I'm really excited to get into it. I think it's very Japanese inspired, and I don't know much about that part of the world, so really looking forward to that. Next up, we have The 12 Kings in Sharakhai by Bradley P. Beaulieu, I think is how you say that last name. Not 100% on that, but it's a beautiful cover. And this was another book that a lot of you out there have recommended to me as something that I really need to read. It's called The Song of the Shattered Sands. That's the name of the series. A lot of people told me that I needed to check this out, especially in that it is very different from European-inspired fantasy. It is much different than most of our fantasy, which is European-inspired. This is very inspired by Middle Eastern traditions and fantasies and stories. I believe it has a lot of jinns, which is exciting. I've heard that this guy is a fantastic writer. Like, his prose are beautiful, and that's really something that catches me. And I don't know if you can tell through the camera, but there is a blurb by Robin Hobb at the beginning that says, "Wise readers will hop on this train now as the journey promises to be breathtaking." And I want to be a wise reader, so I'll listen to Robin Hobb. Also, as I mentioned, I bought both of the first two books in the Swans War trilogy by Sean Russell. I showed you the physical one that I got for the third one, but the second one is Isle of Battle, which is right there. I'm sad that the cover doesn't come in full screen because it's a gorgeous cover. And then the first book in this trilogy is called The One Kingdom. That, again, that's sort of coming up wonky on my screen, but excited to get to the Swans War, especially now that I have all three of them. Next up is Mage's Blood by David Hare, and this is the first book in the Moontide Quartet. Again, another one that I talked about in my 25 books in fantasy that I want to read. This is, again, as I've said previously, a good example of how a single good concept can really grab in a reader. The basic idea here is that every, I think, 100 years or something like that, a land bridge opens up between two continents, and there's a tradition that these two nations always have this season of war to gain glory during this land bridge until it disappears. And this is about what happens during that time. And so I think that's such a cool idea. And so I picked up the book when I saw there was a sale on it in October. So Mage's Blood, David Heyer. And finally, last but not least, The Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter. If you watch BookTube, you have probably heard of this all before. It was originally a independent, self-published release that has now been picked up by, Orbit. So a major publishing company did pick it up by Evan Winter, who grew up in Africa, I believe Equatorial Africa region, maybe a little south of that, as well as in South Africa. I may be getting that wrong. I haven't really delved deep into that, but I know that Winter has said, because I've listened to some reviews by him, that he has, because of colonization, obviously has a lot of influence from European writers and fantasies, but also because of where he grew up and his heritage, he has a lot of connection to African storytelling and setting and fantasy as well. And so this is kind of a merging of the two. And specifically, Tao, the main character, is dealing with sort of a repressive culture, a very warlike culture, and that plays out in this story. So it's sort of been a polarizing book in the Shelf Space Discord for sure, but also just around BookTube. Some people really, really love it. Some people are not huge fans of it. Some people think it's one of the best ever. So I'm very interested to start reading this. It's sort of in that same category as the Poppy War for me on this sense. Like it's this huge explosion of popularity and is somewhat polarizing depending on who is reviewing it. So I picked it up when there was a deal on it. I think it was $2.99 at some point, and excited to give it a try. That is my book haul. This got pretty long because a lot of books, but let me know what you think about any of these books. And remember, if any of these books spark your fancy and you are interested in buying them, be sure to check out my bookshop.org affiliate tag. That will be, that'll be available in the description bar below. Thank you guys for watching. As always, first in, last out.